meeting. Just got in the
Nice.
car. Yeah.
For some reason, my thing wants me to log. Here we go. There. Um, I'm going to be off camera for a little bit, and then in the car.
Yep. Me
Mike,
too.
you were just at a closing?
No, I had a networking breakfast.
Networking. How'd that go?
Good. Good. Real well. Financial planner and a family attorney. So three of us.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's a family attorney do?
Divorce.
Ooh.
It's a nice way to say divorce attorney, family lawyer.
It's funny. I was telling someone a story the other day that we all like get geeked up about divorce attorneys when you start to
Yeah.
talk about other pillars.
Yeah.
And one of the funniest stories when it was 1996. I had a guy named John something walking, like somehow he got my number, and he's like, "Dude, I'm getting a divorce," and he makes me call his divorce attorney. Guy's name is Ken Weiner. I go out to Ken Weiner's office, and it's Weiner, and Weiner Law. True story. And his mom is the receptionist, and she's like 80. And she's like, "Who are you here to see?" Like, takes a cigarette out of her mouth. There's breath mints on the thing. I mean,
Ah,
Fairfax, Virginia, like smells like a smoke shop. And out comes this guy who literally looks like Danny DeVito. Um, but like Ken Weiner, like he's got his congregation, like this, like just the funniest Jewish man you've ever met. And he's like, "Listen, come in here," and it's like he essentially grills me and says this, Mike. He goes, "Listen, I typically represent men. If you're going to help me out, I'm going to need to call you. You're going to have to pull their credit, fax it over to me, and then I just need to figure out how much equity they have because they're going to split it with their soon to be ex, and then I need to get paid." That relationship
nice.
that relationship lasted. I moved to Nashville in '99, and then I got the dreaded call that Ken had died of a heart attack. I had sponsored his congregation golf tournament like 3 years in a row. He was one of those like just hilarious but totally selfish divorce attorneys. So flash forward, I've heard everybody and their mom, every realtor, "I'm a network with divorce attorneys." It's tough because they're
Yeah.
private.
It,
The
yeah.
situations are sticky. This isn't a celebration like, "Dear Michael, thank you so much for helping me through my wretched
Yeah.
divorce of my asshole husband. By the way, here's a gift card. Thanks." Like,
It's tough.
no, it's it's
Yeah.
it's
It's a
it's yeah. Anybody want to
it's a
refute
tough
this?
road.
Because we're in the locker room. We're getting ready to talk about the first realtor meeting, but we always sidebar a little bit. Michael and I do, or I do, and Michael tends to agree.
Yep.
Uh, Michael, do you? I mean, in the end, obviously, you want to get business from the person, but our
Yeah.
divorces.
I mean, you know, in our group, they pair us up with two other people once a month to have a one-on-one, which is great, right? So
Nice.
yeah, so I happen to get paired with these two people, and of course, yeah, I mean, divorce work is tough. I've done a couple deals just by chance, right?
Hmm.
And they are tough, and they're not enjoyable. There's a lot of nasty stuff going on. So yeah, I mean, it's not been a pillar that I've really gone after.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm in the meeting, and so it's important to let him know how I can help him if he ever needs it. But yeah,
Well,
it's not a pillar that I'm actively pursuing.
and if people are on this call for the first or second time, maybe about 3 months ago, 2 months ago, Michael had outlined his networking groups and how he does it, and how you have like three of them. You set up one with someone else, so you've administered that one, and it's like you're in Atlanta, and it's a pretty good. I don't know if it's 20% of your business, 30, but it's definitely something that keeps you. Part of our insanity as we switch gears to the topic of today is that when we just become the realtor pillar. I remember I had a loan officer. He's burned out of the business. He does multifamilies now. His name's Ryan Stackhouse. Super great guy. And I have a loan officer that's been with me 5 years that I credit to Ryan quitting the business. And that guy Andy had called Ryan and said, "I want to get into the mortgage business." And Ryan said, "Go work with Brendan." So Ryan one day walked into my office because he was calling on 75 to 100 realtors doing the core Monday, hi, this is let's meet. All the stuff we're getting ready to talk about. And he was super frustrated. He had a ton of leads. They were shit leads, open house leads. Nobody was coming in to meet with him. And I remember drawing this figure, Michael, and I drew this like Hulk Hogan, like this big square head, these big arms. And then when I got down to his torso, I did like little sticks for legs. And I was like, it's because you have no other part of your business. You're just a realtor loan officer.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Welcome to the crack addict lifestyle of dealing with realtors. So, as we say that, welcome to the crack show today. We're going to talk about how to meet with more realtors. Stay tuned for future calls where we do talk about other parts of business, i.e., financial planners, networking groups, other referring sources, maybe divorce attorneys, maybe your past clients, maybe some other channel. But today we're back on the crack hit pipe called realtors. So, Michael, our big thing today was to talk about initial meetings and really
Yep.
the preparation for that. And I think the follow up piece on that, because um, if some of you are on that were out at Shayla's event, Allison Larson is doing like a 7-week series on realtor stuff, the way she does it, which is really awesome. She's got it down, Michael, to like a 6-step process. She's crushing it, doing 50, 60, 70 mil, like crazy numbers, right? And I think what I wanted to do today was kind of share a little bit of that, Michael. Our essentially how we all do it is very similar for that initial meeting to try to get it. And then it's the question of, okay, what are the sequence steps in the meeting? How do you close? And then honestly, what's like the best follow up? Because I think everybody can have different approaches to this. And oh, by the way, some realtors like aren't going to respond to certain follow up that other realtors do. So I think that's kind
Yep.
of like, interrupt me anywhere where you feel like there's one other thing that we should cover or some type of
Yep.
frame outline that I missed there, Michael.
We'll do.
Did I miss anything in this whole sequence of realtor stuff?
Oh, no, no, no. No, no. I think you're right on the money.
So,
So I think,
so
yeah, it's just a matter of how, what's the approach. Love to get some feedback from the team who is actively meeting realtors as well as we sort of move along the call for sure.
okay, so if everybody has like a note page, I think the number one thing, get out a piece of paper if you can. And to me, like that left, maybe do 3 columns. And I think the first column is just like, initial call, initial approach, and like getting names. I'll give you a real life example. I have a really good agent that I've got 2 deals with right now. I'm trying to go to as many of her broker opens as possible because she just likes me being there. And, inevitably, if you go to your realtor broker opens and it's a realtor that you're supporting, and I'm not saying like go pay for the food tray, if you have to, do, but just show up. And when you show up to those, you will always get introduced by that realtor to other realtors. Super simple. So this happened this week, and this agent like kept looking at me, and I was like, "You look familiar," and she was like, "Yeah, you do too." So, anyways, she told me her name, and Michael. So I was back at the office yesterday. True story, and I left her a voicemail. And this house was on West End, and it was a $3 million house. The voicemail I left her, Michael, I go, "Hi, this is Patrick. I got your name off the internet. I saw your Instagram reviews, and I was really interested in a $3 to $4 million historic house, preferably on the west side. And I was just wondering if, like, possibly you had time today to maybe show me if there's anything that's popped up. Was just curious." And then I had this long pause, and then I started laughing. Then I started laughing, and I go, "Okay, this is Brendan. We just met at Autumn's open house, broker open. I hope you didn't take that voicemail." And so she calls me later yesterday, cracking up, going, oh my God, you totally got me. Like, so we talked for 5 minutes. She's been a realtor for 10 years. We can't figure out if we've worked together. All of
Yep.
a sudden, a phone call comes in for her and she says, hey, I got to take this call. This is a client. I said, no problem. Let's connect. So I haven't tried to set the hook, but this morning or sometime today, I'm just going to say, hey, Kay, great chatting with you. Want to learn more about your business. I've loved working with Autumn and the other Compass agents. Can
Yep.
we meet for coffee next week? So,
Yep.
by the way, we'd love to have live role play calls again because we used to do this religiously. And Michael, we just need to get back to it where one
Yep.
Friday a month, we just all go on mute and everybody listens to other people on their cell phones trying to close realtors for appointments. Because
Oh yeah.
sometimes, right, it's super easy, it's organic. Because I feel like this was pretty organic and she kind of walked up to me and,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's like, it's pretty easy to get the meeting. So now in the meeting, Michael, you typically get your realtors from doing Tuesday status calls.
Yep.
Like you're religious about that. You've been religious about that since 2014 or 13. You do them every Tuesday. You status the listing agent and the buyer's agent. You call. That is your bread and butter. Now
Yeah.
you've got the meeting. Talk
Yep.
me through how you set up that meeting, like when you're there in your mind.
Sure. Yep.
Let's say it's a 30 to 45-minute coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. Ideally, I would say, I used to just default to coffee shops, right? Just meet at a coffee shop and, it's just sort of neutral place. But as we sort of, you know, have moved morphed those meetings, we really want to do them in the office. I really want them to come to my office if possible. Sometimes it's not, feasible, and sometimes they're more agreeable to meet at a coffee shop. So let's just say for the for the sake of this call, let's just say we're meeting at a coffee shop. Okay. Um, I'm going to do some research on the realtor beforehand. I mean, I'm not going to spend hours, but I'm going to Google the name, Google, Sally Smith. You know, yes, I did it. Maybe I did a deal with her. I probably would have Googled her already. But if I didn't, or maybe it was somebody that I was introduced to, or maybe somebody said, "Oh, hey, call this person. I think you'll get along with her." I want to know who I'm talking to, right? I want to know a little bit about them. Where are they from? What are their interests? What kind of business do they specialize in? I just want to have a little bit of, you know, who am I talking to, right? And then, you know, I think the biggest thing to keep in mind on these meetings is that, contrary to most salespeople, it's not about me, and it's not about my products, it's not about my rates and all this stuff. It's not about me at all. I want to make it. I want to learn about them. So I think I want to have control of the meeting, and whoever has control is asking the questions. You agree?
100%.
So, you know, yes, there might be a little bit of chit chat in the beginning. Just build a little bit of rapport. There's always that, 5-10 minutes of that. And then typically my biggest thing is I want to know, I want to learn about their business. And, I will typically say, hey, listen, you know, I might pick something out of their history or what they're doing and say, listen, what's your biggest challenge right now in the market?
So hey,
But that's my
one,
go-to.
so this is the middle column of this piece of paper where
Yep.
Michael, coffee shop, you prefer your office, but like you said, you did a little research. Maybe you looked up on MMI. Hey, which lenders are they working with? You're just doing your fact finding so that you don't come in completely blind. Correct.
Correct.
And
Yep.
then when you said 5 to 10 minutes of chit chat, I think that's
Yep.
pretty vague. Do you try to
Yep.
focus it around like, hey, hey, this person introduced us? How, do you do triangling? And then
I,
like, hey, I saw your last LinkedIn post. It had this thing at the YMCA with the, Atlanta
yeah.
Foundation. I saw that you're interested
Yep.
in that. Like, do you just try to keep it super personal and like, what are they like
Yep.
learning about them?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely triangle for trust if it was like a mutual referral. Absolutely. Oh, hey, how do you know Bill? Let me tell you how I met Bill. Of course, right? We're going to do that. But if I don't have that that common connection, then it's more about just asking them questions about what I know that they're doing or interested in doing, or, you know, they always come in and say something, right? They like to talk. So that part is pretty pretty simple, pretty easy.
Well,
And then,
understand this, that you're really good at this. So I'm kind of picking it apart.
yeah,
I mean, you've been a lender for 25 years. Your business is primarily realtors. You're
yeah,
consistently closing, 4 or 5 million, 6 million a month. You are a total fucking pro, and you're so consistent. So when you say, hey, just 5 to 10 minutes of chit chat, like
yeah,
understand that someone on this call is fucking that
sure.
up. Their 5 to 10 minutes
Yeah,
of chit chat turns into 35 minutes of chit chat, which, by the way,
yes,
sometimes could work. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't work, but you
right,
consistently have shown me that you take cold relationships, turn them into something,
yeah,
and you work with a variety of realtors. You work with male, female. Like, you're not like
right,
pigeonholed to the Michael only works with curmudgeony old men that are angry.
right,
Like,
correct.
your style works amongst the most number of realtors I've ever seen. So go. So
Right.
you're at 5, 10 minutes, chit
Yep,
chat, personal, listening. Oh my God, tell me more. The
yep.
Renee Rodriguez, if you want to write this down, love. Michael, what does love stand for?
So love stands for listen, observe, validate, expand.
Yes. And by the way, when they say, "Hey, I live over in Alpharetta,"
Yep.
what do you say?
Oh, Alpharetta, beautiful spot. What made you move to Alpharetta?
Oh my God, great question. Yeah. So versus, oh, hey, I live
Oh,
in Alpharetta.
yeah,
Ready? Do the
yeah.
incorrect response.
Oh my God, Alpharetta. Oh, you know what? I was just there last week. I love Alpharetta. My wife and I go to this really awesome barbecue called
Yeah.
Smoke
Then Michael
Jacks
made it
right
about
there.
him. By the way, 78% of you on this call do that. Oh, I have
Uh,
a black poodle. Oh my God, my uncle had a black poodle once. I loved that dog.
right,
So listen and observe, validate them, and expand on them. What made you do
right.
that? Oh my God, that's so cool. How come you went there? Great. That. Wow, cool, neat, neato. Validation. All right, so
That's
we
great.
got through that. Now,
Yep.
now you're to the biggest, meatiest question that you start to transition. So give us the
Yeah.
transition question for Michael.
Well, and I think the key is too. It's easy, especially if you have a talker. It's really simple just to talk about everything except business if you let them. So you have to really rein them in. So just make sure if they're a talker, you got to start reining them in and just start asking questions. So you just say, you can transition pretty easily. Just say, I was looking at. Obviously, you've done a great job this year. Um, let me ask you this. I'll ask questions like, hey, look, who who are your go-to lenders? Who do you like to work with on the lending side? So I'll ask questions like that. I want to know if I now the benefit of MMI is I know who they're working with, right? But years ago we didn't have that. You'd have to ask those questions. I do like to know who they're working with. I want to know what their
When
hot
when
button are.
when they okay, so when they answer that question, how do you
Yeah.
do you probe from there? Oh, I work with Sheila over at Atlanta Bank of Atlanta.
Oh, okay, Sheila. Yeah, I think I've recognized the name. I don't know her personally. Let me ask you something. What do you like? Like, what does Sheila do? What do you like about working with Sheila?
Boom. What do you like about working with her?
I
There you
want to
go.
know
And
what her
now,
hot buttons are. Yeah.
right. And so I think the biggest thing is they're
Delilah.
gonna
Hello.
Delilah. Lila's on. Somebody's on. Somebody's talking. So they expand on that.
Yeah.
Generally, they're going to be positive, or tell me what you
Yeah.
generally experience there.
Yeah. Generally, they're positive, right? Because you know, they're going to say, "Oh, yeah, she does this, she does that. I really appreciate this." One thing that so it's interesting because when you hear what somebody likes about another lender, it's, I mean, it's important to know, right? Because if she likes these things, then it's important that we can deliver at least that plus something. And it's interesting too, because sometimes the things that they'll tell you are so basic and so simple that, you know, every lender should do these things. And she didn't mention certain things that we do. And if she had the opportunity to work with me again, we're going to knock her socks off. Like we're going to blow her away. Right. So it's interesting to know what the expectation is from her standpoint. And that's another question too, is that, look, like every real estate agent that I work with, they all have they have similar expectations, but some people have certain expectations that it's important for me to know. So what are your must haves in a lender?
What are your must-haves in a lender? So they'll tell you about their lender. Then what are your
Yep.
must-haves in a lender?
Yep.
And mind you, this is understand that anybody on this call, they've met with you. You know, when Michael tried to set the hook for the appointment, they might have said at that point in time, "Hey, Michael, hey, listen, I really loved your updates on my listing on Hiawatha Street. Look, I really appreciate what you're trying to do. I'm really busy. I work with Sheila Stallnecker at Cross Country, and I
Yep.
work with Betty Buttercup over at Guaranteed Rate. And worst comes to worst, I work with Shayla Gifford over at Guild Mortgage. Shayla's not on the call, but I love her. Point being is that
Yep.
they're gonna shut you down and never
Yeah.
meet with you. So now you've done the open it up. Who do you work with,
Yep.
and how come you work with them? What are
Yep.
the qualities that boom, and then what are your must haves in a lender? They're going to
Yep.
talk
Yep.
about that. Then because you've had different openings before, we're
Yep.
going down this path.
Right.
What else? What's the next sequence for you? These are middle questions.
Yep. Typically, it, it might be something like, depending on the market we're in, like we're in this market right now, and maybe they've alluded to something being challenging. I'll say, listen, what is your greatest, this is my number one question I want to ask. It gets them to open up. And I'll simply say, hey, what's your greatest challenge right now with the market?
What's your greatest challenge right now with the market? That's the ringer because everybody up till
That's
now has heard these questions.
yes.
There's the free fun Friday call ringer from Michael Anthony. That's his second gold nugget besides Tuesday status crushery is this. Hey, with all the challenges in the market right now, what's your biggest challenge? Such an easy, like, it's not what do you suck at? Where are you weak? It's it's acknowledging that the market's challenging because it always is. But what's your biggest challenge? Now, what do they normally say, Michael? How does that go?
Normally they'll say, oh my gosh, right now it's just inventory. God, it's so low, trying to get my buyers under contract. That's probably the number one thing I hear.
Mm,
Um, or number two could be, oh my God, my lead, these referrals, just getting them approved and getting them off the fence. It's like pulling teeth. That's my challenge right now. So it's usually those two responses, at least for me. That's about 90% of what I hear.
mm.
Um,
So
so
essentially indecisive leads, getting leads to get action, or
yeah,
finding homes for them, finding inventory.
yeah,
And obviously, they want to have listings too. So, hey, my listings are really light. And when I get them, they sell quick. So I
yeah.
just, never can have enough. So that's 90% of the what's your biggest challenge?
That's usually what I hear, and at least in this, you know, in the most recent market. Yes.
I
Yep.
would have to think that that's 75, at least 75%. What are some of the obscure challenges? Anything that you've ever heard that aren't the
Um,
75 to 90%?
I might hear something like, I just, honestly, if they're being honest and truthful, they'll say, you know what, I just need to get more organized.
Yeah.
I got to get my database up to
Yeah.
snuff,
There you go. That's
right.
exactly what I was thinking. I probably should hire an assistant, but I've never had one. Yeah.
Those, yeah, you'll
Yeah,
hear some of that.
I don't really do any social media, and I had this thing and I don't like being in the camera, all the stuff.
Yep.
So we could
Exactly.
probably write out their 10 biggest challenges, right?
For
Can you
sure.
hear me?
Yep.
So, okay, so when they tell you their challenges, I mean, you're at the 30-minute mark, right? Or
Yep.
maybe, then what?
Yeah. So when I hear the biggest challenge, and then I will, the next question I'll ask is, hey, what are your greatest challenges on the lending side?
Mm,
So really then more specific about, hey, what are your challenges with loans and lending?
Mm,
And then you just let them talk. You just don't say a word. Just let them talk. Um, and
mm.
and they may say, you, you never know what they're going to tell you, right? Because they've already told you what they liked about their lender, but sometimes this is where they'll say, I really like Sam over at ABC Mortgage. He's really really good. However, because now they're opening up, right? However, I will say like sometimes he's not, he just doesn't call back right away. Like his I just need him to be a little bit more responsive. So I would say I really need somebody to communicate, just have more consistency in the communication. And if I call them or my customer calls them, they really have to get back to them within a certain period of time. And I think that's lacking just a little bit. And I think he's just real busy. But he's really good, but he's just really busy. So I don't know. I would say that would be my challenge right now. I
Okay,
mean, you
so they're
never
gonna
know what they're going to say. I mean, to
they're
be
gonna they're.
honest.
I mean, that's a good little role play. So that one is like, hey, my lenders, and we could write these out on what's your biggest challenge on the lending side: last minute conditions, poor communication, um, lack of service. Ron used to be chop chop. Now Ron's gotten a little fat on
Yeah.
me because I've sent him 6 deals. One of the things Allison in the Shayla event had talked about was suggesting like, hey, what does your lender do with the leads that don't close? Which I
Mhm.
thought that was
Yeah.
brilliant too, because then it's like exposing kind of a follow up thing. Or
Right.
how does your
That's
how
good.
does your lender follow up with leads that don't go anywhere initially? You know,
Yeah, that's good.
that like
That's
a
really good.
how or what question.
Mhm.
Not why is your lender so greedy that they only want to work with the leads that close now and they don't do shit with the leads that don't do anything.
Right. That's good. That's a good point. That's really good. Yeah.
But anyway, so yours is what's your biggest challenge? They're going to say it. It
Yep.
sounds like that normally it's going to be something.
Right.
And every now and again, I think they deflect that to like, oh, I had this deal that the client went with this credit union and it was terrible. And then
Yeah.
it's like, then, what caused them to go with the credit union and not with the person you mentioned you work with? Like, how come they did that?
Right.
It's like, well, that's a good question. They're relative, like they're going to give you
Oh yeah.
ammo. So
Yep.
now you're just listening again.
Mhm.
Tell me about this would be the final, like, okay, we're coming to the final 10 minutes of this meeting.
Yep.
It's, it was an 8 o'clock meeting. It's 8:40. I don't want her or him to start looking at their watch. I know
Right.
that they know I'm getting ready to say something. So now what's the most important point for you to get across?
Right. Well, so time out. What I'm thinking in my mind is, do I think I have the opportunity to have a second meeting? Right. Because the you know the ideal way to handle this is to have a second meeting in my office, right? So maybe the first meeting's at the coffee shop. Second meeting would be bring him to my office and then really get deeper on how we could help solve some of those problems.
Mm,
That's in an ideal world. However, we've all had the meetings where we feel like this might be it, right? It's like we've got to give some nuggets now because we may not have that next meeting, right? I mean, we've all had that. You're in that crossroads, like which way do you go, right? So I think if I feel like if they're intrigued and they're interested and it's going really well, I would say, hey, look, I know we're coming up, we got a few minutes left, but would you be opposed to coming and visiting my office? I really, you've seen I've taken some notes and I've really listened to some of your challenges are, and I think we really can help you with some of those issues. And I'd love to bring you to my office and show you, how I interact with clients and how I can um, sort of bridge the gap with some of those problems that you're having. How does your calendar look next week? Can we pull up, can we pull up Outlook and just figure out a time where we can meet at my office for 15 or 20 minutes?
gotcha.
So
So,
that would be the idea. Next meeting, get them in the office, talk about solutions.
mm, so your setup is they've exposed themselves.
Right.
Now they're wait like They're waiting for you to spit out, oh my God, you know what, Sally, you had mentioned fence sitters. I have a 10-1 arm with a 4-3-2-1 buy down that somehow,
That you, Cassie?
am I, yeah, you're talking. We hear
It
you.
was rough, I know.
We can hear you. Whoever you are, you're chatting. You're not on mute. Bottom line is you're thinking that they have a, you're thinking that they're waiting for you to solve the problem there.
Right.
And you're not. You're addressing it and you're saying, hey, this is thanks for telling me about all that. Do you ever get into the weeds on the solution?
I
Or
sometimes, yeah, I mean, the only time that I will, if I feel like, you have some meetings that just go quickly and you're not really sure. If I don't feel like I can get that second meeting, I've got to give them something, right? I have to
Mhm.
give them you got to give them some meat at that meeting just to get them intrigued, right?
Yeah,
But if they're open, but if they're giving buying signals throughout, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is great, then I just want to set the second meeting, get into the office. Okay. Because
right.
I feel like get that second meeting and then that could be a whole nother that could be a whole nother sales call for us. But second meeting, get into the office, and then really close on solutions. Hey, Sally, I wrote down a lot of notes about what some of the issues and challenges were. And I'd love to talk to you a little bit about how I think we can help you with those. And then you close, right? You just show solutions. At that meeting, if I feel like I'm not going to get a second meeting, then I've got to give them some reasons that have to give them some reasons that we need to keep this relationship going, right?
Right.
Especially if I don't think they're going to come to the office for a second meeting.
Would you say now when you mention notes, are you actually taking notes in the meeting?
I'm writing things down. Yes.
Okay, so you're clearly, I would say you always look professional, whether it's a suit and tie or it's a blazer. You show
Yeah.
up business professional to
Right.
extreme professional, and you've got probably a nice little leather binder with a clear page on it.
Right. Yep.
Okay, yeah, I mean that's um,
I think it shows them, like, well, first of all, I want to take notes because I don't want to forget something that's critical. But I also think too, they see that you are, like, taking the meeting seriously. You're jotting some notes down. Like, that's a pretty professional thing.
yeah. I think there's a standard, and you're used to your standard, and other
Right.
people maybe on this call might be like, God, that's just too businessy for me. Again, I just challenge everyone that I have not met a loan officer that has a more wider variety of realtor relationships that last than this person on this call. And Michael, we've been working together since what, 2009, 2010?
Yeah, I think 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've seen it. I've seen it all come and go. I totally get it. But no one does as good a job across all boundaries as this man that I'm interviewing right now. So that
Thank
said, well, it's true. When I see it over and over, I just know, and I'm jealous
you. Yeah.
sometimes because I just can't do this. Sometimes
You
my shit
can. You
happens.
can do it.
My shit happens either naturally, but it's all over the board, and it's okay. I'm just not wired like you. So here's the thing: middle column interview questions transition to come to my office. I would love to show you some things that might possibly help you get out of some of those things that you said were frustrating or that you're struggling with. Could we meet? Boom. Now, when we all think, okay, set the hook, have the meeting, ask these questions, maybe you learn something. We've got 10 minutes left on this call. I want to keep it to 45 minutes today.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that is missing in our industry, and Michael, you said we could have a whole nother call on that follow up. I
Yep.
think if we all paid ourselves $50 for every realtor meeting we've ever had, and then we had to take away $100 for every realtor meeting that we left thinking we're going to blow this realtor up and they're going to crush it. And 3 months later, we have zero referrals.
Yep.
Or maybe a phone call about a possible open house lead that they wanted to know. They had a quick question and then they were going to connect us when the time came.
Right.
Just go ahead and unmute yourself. I want to hear all the laughter and the, yeah, that's me. Because yes, that is you. That's all of us.
Me. Yep. For sure.
Oh my God, I just crushed it with this agent. Yeah, they wanted me to sponsor their Zillow shit for $1,500 a month. I held up the sword. I said, "Hey, hold on a second. Let's start working together for a little bit." But dude, like this lady kills it, and I'm gonna go meet her buyer's agents tomorrow, and I'm gonna go do a broker's open. 3 weeks later, "Hey Andy, how's it going with Ron?" "Dude, that guy's weird, man. I've left him like 2 messages. He hasn't returned my call."
Crickets,
"Oh, oh,
crickets,
really?" That's because somebody
crickets.
else is paying his Zillow bill. All right. So, Michael, what would you say? Obviously, you're thinking office meeting, show them your
Yeah.
wares. If they keep that meeting, it's going to be good because then they can see you in your second set of professional outfits. They get to
Yep.
come to your office and see how organized it is. Now,
Right.
mentally, they're pre-paving their way. Michael lives in Atlanta. He works here. Ooh, it was easy to park. Oh, I'm walking in. Oh, here's his office. I knock on the door. I walk in. Look, his lobby is clean. This is nice.
Yep.
Maybe Mike. By the way, all of you that don't set appointments with clients in your office and realtors, this is you don't have this advantage. Michael does. When people show up to your office that are realtors, they're subliminally telling you, listen, I'm ready to be receiving whatever you're giving out, and I'm looking at all this. And if this is nice, and I say, God, I really love your office, Michael, the hook is set. They now are
Oh yeah.
going, I will refer relocating California buyers to Michael Anthony.
Right.
Now, you do your thing in that meeting. You address the problems and talk about your systems and structure.
Right.
Everybody can do that.
Oh yeah.
Everybody can basically come down with, hey, here's how I do it and here's how it will benefit you. um, i I would love at some point to maybe work on this, Michael, on what does this look like in a sequence,
Yeah.
because in the end I think if we brand something that would be, because here's my thing, and maybe where I fall short, I don't expose enough struggles and do your interview that you just did well enough. My general
Yep.
tendency once they come in, I feel like most of them aren't very organized.
Yep.
I, I,
That's
I
true.
I don't think that they've ever really looked at their business visually, like on a map, where they've had something drawn out like the business flow chart we do.
Yeah.
I definitely think that they're very, very weak. They could be good with their sphere and calls and parties and social and all that. But I think they're very weak on what we talked about at the beginning of this call, the B2B stuff.
Right.
If you survey every one of your realtors, most of them don't have a financial planner. Most of them don't have a reliable CPA that they get any business from. Like if you wrote down 5 or 6 referral sources, you realize that the average residential realtor has no clue who the commercial agents are in their own town. They might know like 3 big ones, but if you said
Yeah.
name 20 commercial realtors in this town, they wouldn't know. And then I'm sitting there thinking, if someone fired me as a lender today, my number one pillar would be to call commercial agents, say, hey, what do you do? By the way, I'm in residential. I know you think we're dirtbags, and that we suck at what we do, but residential is very emotional, and we're dealing with moms and dads and wives and husbands. You guys are dealing with business people trying to find office space or buy buildings. So here's what I'd like to do. When you get those residential questions, who's your realtor, and tell me why you like them. Like I would just go out all day and meet commercial agents until I found four
Right.
or five that were like, you're a stud, right?
Yep.
Guess so here's my point, Michael, is that they're not good visually organizing their business. They're terrible at B2B contacts, which we could load them up with. Every now and again, they suck with their database. And then every now and again, they want to do more like, oh, I want to do like events. I want to do like home buyer classes and investment property classes and different things. So to
Yeah.
me, what I would love outside of the service agreement, and hey, we do Tuesday status updates, we do smart start meetings, which by the
Mhm.
way, do you have them do an all about you in the lobby?
I do have them do it. Not, I can't say every single time, but I do have them do it. And the reason why is because we could show them how
Yeah,
that that information benefits them and us.
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's been
And if they
that's been
don't
a
fill
tech.
it out, yeah, and if they don't fill it out, that's part of the process, is to show them that form at
Yeah.
least, because I've been guilty of not having them do it. But yeah,
Yeah.
ideally they do it.
So in a perfect sequence, maybe something you could learn from today is, hey, is one of the thunders that? Now,
Right.
what I've learned, Michael, and we have this, and we can have Benton send it out. We have a realtor all about you,
Oh, that's cool.
and the realtor all about you at the top. It says, and it says, here are some struggles in my current business. There's all these boxes
Oh, that's
that they can
great.
check.
Love to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then the rest of it's the same. The rest of it's, I have a financial planner. And then I think in the middle, I don't know if we have a lender question or not, but the thought would be it's kind of round two of, hey, we're working on your business if you want to do
Sure.
that. Now, I have had realtors fill that out on first meetings coming in. Um, and it has gone well. I mean, they know that I'm there to kind of do something with them that's the next level. My thought is, though, what I'd love, and this is, we can close up. It's like, what if, what if, because realtors are bombarded with coaching, and they're bombarded with like, try this, try that. What if there
Yep.
were like only four things that we focused on, and truly that second meeting was, okay, hey, you learned a little bit about us and our process, our physical space. You
Right.
filled out an all about you, and I explained like how that really helps me. One of the things you mentioned, Betty, was that your clients are sitting on the fence. One of my beliefs is that they just didn't get enough time to look at their finances, and they didn't get asked enough questions.
Mhm.
What happened was their current payment is 2,500. They program themselves that their new payment needs to be 4,000, no more than, and no one probed deep or challenged them. Everyone backfilled based on interest rates and them selling their house and regurgitated a number. And that's the number that you're stuck at. You're stuck at 750 with 250
Yep.
down. And the problem is what they really like is 850 or 900. And actually, Betty, they can afford it. This forum helps me do that. This forum helps me unravel the maze in their head.
Yeah.
Oh
No,
my
that's
God,
awesome.
oh my God,
Well,
Michael, like this is just so different. Well, yeah, I like to spend time with clients to help them understand this, because otherwise we're all just lenders that force our clients to fill out an online pre-qual, our LP2 calls and says you're good to go, and here's your numbers and here's your good faith estimate. That's why
right.
we lose business to Rocket Mortgage. That's what Rocket Mortgage does.
Hmm.
And if you're listening on this call and you're like, God, that's how I do it. You're just a salesperson making a shit ton of money, calling on a ton of people. You're not a consultant. You're just kind of in the herd and you're doing good. So, congratulations. Stay on the call. Maybe one day you'll figure this out. But at some point, when you go, wait a minute, if I spend more time with clients, I work with less realtors and more sources. I dial in my presentation on the front end so that it's super tight. I could
Yep.
get to tears with my clients. I want them saying, hey, this meeting changed my whole perspective on everything. Now, this is clients talking. But
Yep.
Michael, what I want to do, I'm going to do it with you and Benton. I'm going to consult a couple other people that are some badasses. I
Yep.
think we should just come up with like a 4 to 6 week follow up plan that
Yep.
really is, if you said to the realtor at the end of the meeting, hey, I really enjoyed you coming in. And I think that our 5 week realtor lender partnership program is something that I would want to offer to you for free. It's something that was developed by an amazing coach.
Yeah.
It was
Love it.
developed by a genius. And what it really boils down to, Betty, Ron, Mike, Sally, is that, hey, here are the four big areas that I think you and I could focus on. And it's not just about me now waiting for you to refer me your leads and stop referring the other lender. I'm not
Right.
going to disrupt that relationship. It's just, what I want to do is help you build your business. But this requires homework and us meeting for the next 4 to 6 weeks pretty consistently. Would you be against that?
No,
Boom.
no. Sounds
Boom!
awesome.
I just hit it. I
That's
hit
awesome.
Ron with an uppercut that he's like, whoa, whoa, no one's ever done this.
That's
So
right.
to me, I do think this full circle. You got three columns: how to make phone calls and set meetings. Two, Michael Anthony's way to meet with people. If anybody's on the call and went to the Shayla event, you've got Allison Larson's way to meet with people. And there's probably 17 other ways to meet with people. It's okay. But number three is that follow up. Where
Yeah.
are we following up? And every now and again, I do believe that the combination of those sequences and how that meeting works is the key to unlock that realtor, right? It's the
Yep.
key. And if we can dial in the consistency of how we do it and control that, because Michael mentioned the word, I like to control the meeting and ask the questions. He who asks the questions or she who asks the questions is in control. And my guess would be that, honestly, Michael, if I recorded the time of talking in the realtor meetings, you're probably at about 30 to 40%, and they're at 60 to 70%. Would
You're right.
you?
Yep.
I'll
All right.
almost guarantee you that very few of us on this call have those percentages of talking. Almost
Yeah.
guaranteed it's 50-50 or it's more us than them.
Hey,
Right.
So,
Brendan,
yes.
I want to highlight a question in the chat from Wendy Hartfelder.
Yeah.
She asked, what is a great follow-up message after the meeting that is flattering but not too over the top?
Michael?
Hmm. So like maybe you leave a message, like calling back, or even in a thank you note. You could be perhaps.
You know, it's
Um,
funny. Yeah. I
It's
think,
more
I
just
think,
like I was just sending and I had a great meeting this week and it was a turnaround meeting from having had kind of a bumpy close. She
mm,
was the listing agent and I really loved meeting her. But I don't want to be like a sycophant or a minion. I thought it was awesome and I want to build the relationship and be her. She there's an opening to being one of her preferred lenders. So
you know what?
I
right.
want
Here,
to send a message that's not like, hey, to
uh, you know what's funny is maybe it's as heartfelt as you just said that it was a little bumpy and she gave
yeah,
you a chance.
yeah,
Maybe because texts get read 95% of the time.
yeah,
Maybe it's just a simple text. Sheila, Wendy here. I really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to meet with you. I something about how you feel. Like
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like not many people in this world do that. And you
yeah,
gave me an opportunity and I really appreciate that. Like the end. And
Yeah.
then, like what Michael said, maybe send a handwritten thank you card because she'll get that next week. And does she like coffee? Maybe throw in a little Starbucks card.
yeah,
I always love the $5 Starbucks card and the PS, hey, enjoy your favorite Starbucks drink on me. Have a great week. And then, does she put it in her purse? Probably. Does she give it to an assistant? Maybe. Does she give it to her kid? Who cares? It's just a brain point.
right.
To me, you had a connection. So
Yep,
I would remember every relationship we're in is either every meeting we have can be transactional or relational. So whatever she displayed to you is relational. So now do everything relational.
yep,
How you feel, she made you feel really good about something. Here's a nice thank you like you'd send to a friend and just don't make it anything transactional. Now, closing this meeting out, thank you for that question by the way. I think
thank you.
Yeah. It's good.
the tactical part because by the way, I say this jokingly. My best realtor, who I'm closing 3 loans with this month, who is a freaking beast. Our first meeting, I met her walking her dog a block away. I go to her office for 90 minutes. She tells me about her ayahuasca retreat to Costa Rica and how she was high on ayahuasca for 3 days. And like she lost her religion, but she found God. That was the quote. And here's my
Wow.
thing. I said nothing, and I had my assistant at the time, Andy, and we're driving back to the office. I go, "How do you think that went?" He goes, "We never said a word." And I go,
Yeah.
"Yeah." A week later, she shows up to the office. Michael, we do the horse and pony show. Boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden,
Yep.
I think that year we did 16 just it happened
Or-
based on listening, and
Yeah.
we
That's
bonded.
awesome.
But I think that as lenders, we have to become a little more tactical so that we can make it predictable, so that when it doesn't work, we can kind of go, God, what is it about that that didn't really resonate at all? And maybe there's those times where it wasn't that personable. It wasn't a personable, they felt it was too much business, right? And the direct, let's, be talking just business isn't what they were ready for. But I have a tendency to believe that consistently over time outperforms the random, let's just go listen, let's be their friend, to me. Now that's, again, somebody could argue this and say, hey, my 10 best realtors, I just met them at doing wine night or playing golf, and you're full of shit, Brendan. So,
Yeah.
Michael, as always,
Yeah.
we run over, we try not to. I think that we will work, Benton, we will work on some type of little realtor lender partnership program and try to
I like
make it part of like Smart Start and presenting. Because in the end, if we have a really good front end presentation for clients and we really dial in our business meeting, which by the way, this could be perfected with financial planners. This could, why aren't we calling on commercial? I dog realtors. Why isn't everybody on this call calling a commercial leasing agent who is looking for companies to relocate to their city to find them office space? Why are we not meeting with that person and having a templated interview about how do they get clients? What are they looking for? By the way, we're lenders. Hey, where do you live in town? Cool. Who was your lender? Oh, some guy that, guaranteed rate. He did it all over the phone. It was a good deal. I never talked to him ever again. He sends me these annoying emails on his automated CRM that he thinks is amazing. But I never heard from him. He did my loan 3 years ago. I've never talked to him ever again. Yeah, Ron Stallnecker, 200 million in production. Never met him. By the way, if you're on this call for the second or third time, I'm going to throw as many blows as I can about CRMs too, because they sometimes work. But meetings and phone calls and thank you cards and feelings and time works too. And to me, the people that focus on relational business versus transactional business over and over and over, I'm at the 30-year mark, are happier. If you want to be happy, focus on relationships. If you want to be a roller coaster, focus on transactions. Sad to say, true story, we close with sadness. I've had 4 loan officers commit suicide that I've known. 4. All of them were transactional.
Wow. That's too
2
bad.
of them were the biggest producers in Nashville for the longest time. Both killed themselves. That sucks. So one of my driving truths in selling what we sell here is relationships win. Going deeper wins. Spending a little bit more time with people and calling on less turns out to be more. And
Agreed.
that's the truth. So, love to all of you. Finish in sadness. Michael, we're going to do the transcripts and this out to everybody, but we're going to work on this 4 to 6 week realtor lender follow-up business building partnership so that we have a template that maybe people can follow. And Michael, honestly, I don't want to create it from just bullshit. I want to actually do it and see get some feedback and start to put it out there. So, guys, next week we'll figure out topic next week. Thanks for coming. See you soon.
Thanks, guys. See ya.